Happy Saturday, beautiful people. So excited to have Miss Kyla Sloan on the
Hi, I'm here.
time. You know, I told you I needed to share your light with the world. I felt it was necessary, because I'm so blessed and grateful to be connected to people that are, still in the trenches and really developing and pivoting and finessing this thing called life on this entrepreneurship journey. So everybody, Kyla Sloan, we can give a round of applause, and we're just going to learn more about this beautiful being. And
So sweet.
Yeah, I think 2019 was a year for the both of us just to, really do some personal development, as well as just a year of clarity. So I know we'll definitely dive into just where the journey has taken place from you graduating to college up until now, and just kind of what skills and strategies you've implemented to pivot with faith and finesse. So before we get started, I'd like to start with a moment of gratitude. Dear God, thank you for bringing us all here this beautiful afternoon. I pray that everyone that's here gets everything they need from this conversation. Allow us to just please have a very casual, comfortable conversation. And I pray that we are able to really share the moments that we feel are going to be valuable. I pray that we allow us to just appreciate the journey and share our gratitude and be optimistic about the future. I appreciate you for carrying us all in these challenging times, but we know that you are ultimately in control, and we are excited for the victory we're going to experience at the end of 2020. So in Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Thank you for that.
So how did we even get connected, my dear? Like,
you want to start?
Let's start there. Like, where did this connection begin?
Well, okay, so you kind of brought up my journey, so I don't want to go there immediately. But after graduating college in 2017, which honestly is like 3 years ago next week.
So crazy. I feel like it was so much longer ago.
Yeah, crazy. That was 3 years ago. After graduating college, I moved to LA in August of 2017. So that summer, or like the end of that summer, really is when I moved. Actually backtrack, because when I was in college, I studied mass communication, so I knew I wanted to go into some type of communications after college. So during my senior years, when I realized I wanted to work in entertainment journalism, so I was having a conversation with my older brother about it, and he was like, "Oh, do you know who Stacey Ike is?" And I was like, "No, who is that?" And so he sent me her Instagram, and he was like, "I went to Mizzou with her. She was like my RA or something." He's like, "But now she lives in LA and she's a host and she does red carpet." And I'm like, "Oh, dope." So I probably started following Stacey on Instagram like the latter half of the year, or senior year. So, probably January to graduation. So I would see her post. I'm like, wow, this girl is really doing like what I think I want to do, So yeah, I think that plus some other influence by a friend of mine, my best friend actually, who I ended up living with in LA. I was like, I think I'm gonna move to LA. So I told my parents, packed up my bag, literally had a couple $1,000s saved, not much honestly, but we made it happen. We moved
pause. What made you make the decision? You just was like, I'm gonna just get up and go?
Yeah, I mean, I know I wanted to work in entertainment journalism. A friend of mine who I said I moved with, Danielle, she was actually studying there already, for, like study abroad class, but in the States. So she was studying there for production. And so I went to visit her doing like Mardi Gras break, because I went to school in Louisiana, so we get Mardi Gras break. So I went to visit her, and then being there, I was just like, oh wow, like I love this place. We were with one of her older cousins, and so she was taking us to all the ins and outs, the really fun social events, really plugged in. And then I think also just during that time, I guess you can call that fall ending into the springtime, that's a really popular season in Hollywood. You have all the award shows and there's always productions and red carpet going on, but I just feel like that time where I kind of identified that I wanted to go into entertainment journalism, everything was kind of popping off in Hollywood. And maybe even specifically like young Black, adults in Hollywood too, being really successful. And so I just feel like that inspired me to kind of want to do the same thing. I didn't know exactly how I wanted to, immerse myself in that environment. I just knew that I liked being in front of the camera. I liked conversation. Still to this day, very similar characteristics. I was like, LA feels like the right place. So we moved there. I didn't have a job. She did. She had a job with Dr. Phil, and I'm talking about my friend. But she, started her job, and I was like, okay, I gotta figure this thing out. So the first thing I did was just, get a day job, front desk, working at a sugaring salon. And then I was like, you know what? I think I should reach out to Stacey. I don't know if she put something out saying she needed an assistant or what. I don't know.
Most definitely. And to give you guys a little bit more context, at that time, I was Stacey's brand manager in LA. So I was helping Stacey develop her team, and things were moving rather rapidly. She had just got her show on the OWN network with Oprah. She was doing the BET Awards. Just opportunities were happening one after another. And as we all know, it's important to build on that momentum. And so we were doing any and everything to build her brand awareness, to have her connect with the community, increase her fan base, build her social media following. So we were doing the absolute most, and we were killing ourselves. And so we took the time to really figure out who we needed, because we wanted to the experience to come out very professional and very intentional. And we attracted this beauty here.
Yeah, and that's also funny, because if y'all haven't watched Precious and Stacey's Mastermind Flash, y'all need to go ahead and do that now, because it's kind of like the prerequisite to this conversation. A lot of what led their relationship to kind of conspiring, and then you'll get an idea when I came in, because I missed all of the OWN experience. I wasn't on the team yet, but I came in right after that. So like I said, in August, I think I emailed Stacey directly. Precious was probably manning the email, but I just sent this super long, this is what I want to do. I want to be in your team. I don't know, super just shoot your shot type of email. I remember being Trader Joe's parking lot when I did it too, because I was going grocery shopping. I'm like, look, I need work. And for me, it wasn't really about the money either, because that was never a driving force. I'm just somebody who, now that I've matured, I'm like, okay, yeah, we got to get that together. But, finances are important. But to me, you can't buy experience. You truly cannot buy experience. And I think that year, in 2018 was or 2017 to 2018 was just very monumental in my life, I think all of ours. And I think that's where I realized no, this is how you make it happen. You know what I mean? Just putting yourself out there and going after what you want just wholeheartedly, you can really make anything happen. So that's kind of how our relationship began. And we just worked so closely together for a year long. Sleeping in the same rooms, being on calls forever, going to all the same events, struggling the same, you know what I mean?
Wardrobe.
Yes, wardrobe, getting ready together. Stacey was priority, so we would get that together. Me and Precious, taking turns, okay, makeup, okay, hair, okay, this, okay, that. So it was very wild and chaotic, but it was a beautiful chaos. It was there's a method to our madness, and every room we walk in, it don't matter, who knows us, who doesn't. We're commanding the room, the attention, and, in a very humble way, of course. But it was more so about we have a job to do. We're going to get it done, and it doesn't matter what gets in our way. Nothing will stop this, what we have going on. So beautiful.
Yeah, time. So clearly your spirit and passion and determination aligned with ours. We were okay, Kyla's definitely down for the cause. And I know one thing that we appreciated the most was that she asked questions. And we absolutely love that she asked questions, because that shows that, one, you're gaining clarity. Two, you truly are wanting to understand what needs to be done and want to do it well. So let's dive into, because I know a lot of people experience this. I've worked on several different teams, which is how I was able to help Stacey build her team. And I've kind of been the liaison of that manager assistant role to seasoned entrepreneurs, to creatives, I've always been that go-to person from a project management standpoint, communications, all of that. And so with you pivoting into that executive assistant role, what was that pivot like? What were some of the things that you identified that, were maybe your strengths, and maybe some things where you're oh, I'm not so strong in that, but you still, with Faith and Finesse, did that full pivot and took on the role?
Definitely. I mean, these are things that I still think about to this day because it just was a lot going on. Like I mentioned, I had a day job, which was sitting at a front desk. So we all know that's like admin, managerial type of work. And then I'm working full time as an assistant, and that's literally, there's no real word that you can put on it. Being an executive assistant is just like you do any and everything under the sun. Outside of being like the assistant, I also handled most of the social media happenings. And so that was we could go down a whole nother rabbit hole for what that has done for me in my career right now. But outside of that, I was also working on production, live production. So I knew, that you have to survive. So in order to survive, you can't, like I said before, you can't just have experience. You do have to make some type of means of income. So I think that was just juggling all of that was the first kind of test to what it was like. Just pivoting in this new environment, because you go from being in college and everything's already kind of taken care of. You already have a routine put together. And so, I know I'm waking up, I'm going to this class, that class, I'm eating at this time. Okay, 2 more classes after this, and then probably go home and chill, or probably go home and study. And then it's repeat, so you're doing that for 4 years. And to come out of college and go into a totally new environment, that was fine. I had no recollection, no issue being like afraid of being in a new environment. It was just more so like, okay, this is a lot of work. Like there was a lot of baggage. I remember at one point just kind of being overwhelmed because we had so much going on, like with Stacy, that's just one entity. And then I have a whole nother life outside of this. So like, how do I balance this? How do I juggle? So I think one of the first things I had to learn or really gain was just more of a discipline to just like getting work done, and less worrying about the actual products that you're creating. I think, and we're probably jumping the gun here, but I think a lot of what I struggle with, I don't want to say perfectionism necessarily, because that's probably some truth to that.
It's a form.
Yeah, it's a form of perfectionism, because it's like, okay, I want my work to look like this. And so, you had that fear of it not coming out right. So now you're procrastinating and you're not getting it done. And it took me like my halfway point of living in LA to realize like, okay, this is an issue, because now I'm, I feel like I'm burdening myself with all these different tasks from all these different areas. And like I'm at one job doing this work, at that job doing that, and to no one's fault, like that also had to get done. There's no downtime at that point. So it's just it's a matter of balancing everything, but make like time management. So a lot of it was learning project management and time management, and being disciplined with both of those things. And I think I honestly didn't really get a grasp on what that looks like until later down the road. Like even after living in LA, I think that was just like, okay, this is what I don't want to feel like. This is how I don't want to feel. I don't want to be overwhelmed. I don't want to feel like I have all of these tasks that I can't get done. So this is how I attack it, to make sure that I'm staying organized and doing my part.
Right. So I know that was definitely a mouthful. And when it comes to being a part of someone's journey from, the build up phases, mm-hmm. there is kind of like a roll up your sleeves, let's figure it out. Mm-hmm. But then there's also a moment where as leaders, I know Stacy and I took into account just self-care. Like I know for sure that was something that we definitely wanted to initiate and make sure that we were vocal about prioritizing self-care, because we just all know for ourselves, we work ourselves till we're completely out. And so us getting burnt out alone as leaders, we know for sure Kyla's burnt out, so mm-hmm. let's have a conversation. And so with that experience, I know there was a lot of contacts you gained, a lot of insights you gained on the industry. So clearly right now you're in Dallas. So what happened? What was that pivot? Because your intentions was to go to LA to pursue a career in communications and entertainment journalism. And you were taking the steps and getting the internship and doing the work and being a part of the grind. And then there was another shift.
Yes, definitely. So I think you said it best, self-care. And I think it came a point towards the end of the road where we were all like, okay, something has got to shake, like something has got to change. And mind you, we weren't like, I just want to make it clear, like we weren't just creating things out of thin air and like trying to make them work. Like this was good, how they say, good quality content, you know?
Right.
Like we're traveling to Vegas and then to Miami and then to back to LA, like coast to coast. Like I remember me and Stacy, it was January, I'll never forget. We went from LA to DC to work with DC Comics, I think. And they were having their some inaugural or anniversary, something. And so, you know, I had to be there with her, but then the next 2 days, I had to be back in LA for the NAACP Awards, Image Awards, because I was working that live production. So it was like that kind of stuff. I overslept, missed my flight because Stacey and I didn't go to sleep until like 2 a.m. My flight was at 6 a.m. And so it was like those were the learning experiences. Like you have to be on your toes and you have to take care of yourself. And so it just came a point where, you know, I had to put myself first and my priorities first and how I felt. And there was just at some point along the journey, I just didn't love living in LA anymore, or I don't know if I ever loved it. You know, it's just you have that exciting, the exciting like, oh, this is new. I will always say I love my work. I love what I did with you guys. I love what I did or ended up doing. Working at Sugar in LA, which was the salon I worked at. I ended up doing some social media work for them, and I was coming into myself professionally, you know. And so it's like, what are your actual talents? What are your actual skills, and how can you apply these? And so after sitting down and really having that conversation with myself, it's not necessarily like how can I make this easier on myself, but how can I increase my productivity to the highest point. And living in LA wasn't that for me. You know, I wasn't doing the best that I could for myself.
Have you identified why? I know that's like
I mean, definitely.
Itself, but
yeah,
I know you had time to like reflect on like why, you know?
Yeah, I think so. I think number one, it took accepting that this is what was going on, you know, because not everyone's just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just move back and it's gonna work. Like it had to be like, oh dang, okay, this is actually not working out. So I got to accept it for myself. And then we can go on and figure out what the next steps are. So once I accepted it for myself, I think more of it was just like, okay, I see the goals that I have for myself, or I see where I would like to move forward. Is this helping me get there? And that's the type of mindset that I have had. And so it wasn't like living in LA wasn't helping me get there, but there was also a lot of distractions happening in the meantime, like in between, you know, everything that was going on. And so a lot of it was just like, I just want to maximize my time. You know what I mean? Like working front desk here to make sure I survive and make the amount of money I need to live, essentially, and then going and working, you know, so this is like 9 to 5 or 9 to 3, and then working from like 3 to 10 with Stacy, and then on the weekends or some weeks, you know, working these live productions. It's like, I don't know if this is the best situation for me to be in, you know. And I think I had to just consider that and realize that I could go back to Dallas. I can get a normal, what we call normal 9 to 5 job, you know, have that financial aspect on lock, and then do whatever I want to do for myself personally, which is where the Minor Detail was born, but do what I want to do for myself personally after hours. All the while I did move home. So I, you know, was living at home, able to save money, able to bring money in. So my perspective just switched. And I think it just was a matter of becoming mature and realizing that, you know, you have the starving artist mindset that works out for some people, but the way that I operate, it just wasn't I don't think that was my path. I don't think that is where I was meant to be. But living in LA was totally necessary for me to gain very specific experiences that will allow me to kind of be, you know, begin to be molded for what my future would look like.
Oh, that was beautiful. They're asking for your Instagram info. I'm giving them all the details.
Oh, guys, okay.
Minor.
Where is this happening? Because I don't see it.
Oh, it's on the Q&A. Can you see the Q&A?
Oh, Q&A. I was looking at chat. Okay.
You can click on the answer, and I went ahead and put that in there. But I first want to just commend you, number one, for allowing yourself to take the time to accept your reality.
Yeah.
To accept the reality of what you were in, to accept the reality of what you really want, to accept the reality that I tried and this is actually not for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard. That's a very hard thing to do. A lot of people have those thoughts, but depending on your influences, they may feel like, oh, well, no, I need to do this. Let me just suffer, right? I think you do have to push through the pain to your purpose. And I think it was more pain in you making the decision and leaving what you thought was right to something that you didn't feel like so excited about, but it was more so of you knowing you needed to have some type of solid foundation to build off of because of how life was in LA. It's just all kind of scrambled together.
Right.
And you were just trying to figure out and make it work. So definitely commend you for honoring your emotions, honoring yourself, knowing your truth, and taking action with that. I'm sure God played a role in that, for
Definitely.
sure. So what was that conversation? Was there a prayer? Was it just like a constant daily thing where you were just kind of going back and forth? Like, what was those conversations with God leading to that transition?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll just start by saying I've always had a relationship with God since birth. I grew up Catholic, and so I went to Catholic school from like K through 8th, and so that just sets the foundation immediately along the way. And I was just talking about this the other day with some of my friends in Bible study, but along the way you have to create your own relationship with God. And so I think from like, let's say the whole entire time I was in college, I feel like that relationship was building, that intimacy was being built. And in the sense that I knew that God exists and or God is real. And so I'm praying like I need to pass this test. Like that's what my prayers are like then. So like very, very young, low maturity, which is fine. But it just goes to show like how long God works on our hearts, on capturing our hearts, and how adamant He is about that. And so by the time I got to LA is when I saw my relationship take a turn, because now I'm becoming more interested in learning more for myself. I'm watching sermons, I'm doing devotionals daily, and that for me was a huge step because I never experienced that before. And so I honestly wouldn't say that, I can truthfully say God did not play a part in me moving to LA. That was all me. I don't think God played a part in me leaving LA. I also think that was all me in the sense that I felt like something needed to change, but it's not like it came directly from God. Like He definitely places things on our hearts, but it's not like, I prayed about it and I got confirmation, nothing like that. But it was a lot of me knowing where I wanted to be. I mean, I had conversations with you in terms of like where I was, that ended up being conversations with Stacey because I gotta let her know, I'm her assistant, and then all the other jobs I had. And so once reality set in and the feeling became like, okay, this is right, I knew I was on the right track, put it like that. Plus my family, they had a lot to do with that in terms of welcoming back with open arms to live at home, because I know not everyone has the privilege of being able to do so. And so once I got back to Dallas, I'm like, okay, everything is gonna be perfect. Like, we're here, I'm about to work, make money, and I actually did not work until January of 2019, because for the remainder of 2018, when I moved back, I was still working with a client doing social media strategy and things like that, just social media management really. And I was able to like sustain myself over that. And then once I realized like, I don't know if the entrepreneur kick is for me right now. Like, I think I have more learning to do. I think I have more discipline that I need to create within my life and in my space, in my daily walk. So I would say just getting back from LA to Dallas and really having more quiet time for me, less distraction, really led me to God. I was really drawn to God. And then I joined community with fellow young adults at Lit Bible Study, which I love. Shout out to Lit. But, I'm doing that weekly, every Tuesday. And so the community is just getting bigger and the bond is getting stronger between myself and my relationship with God. And so I would say really when I got to Dallas is when that relationship formed. And, now it's a daily walk, it's daily communication. It's not perfect, of course, but I can say now in my life is when I feel more confident about being like, okay, yeah, that's God. Or like, this being put on my heart or this decision that I'm making, like that's all God, ain't got nothing to do with me type of thing.
Yeah, it's a process, it's a journey. And I always say like, you just have to continuously just seek that guidance And that's how you learn his voice.
Exactly. And
you start thinking it, you won't know what it is.
Right. And I think to your point, it's like when you don't have that guidance, you're making decisions for yourself. You're making all of your decisions based off of emotion. And because emotions are temporary, you know, you're not thinking that in your mind. You're like, I feel this way, this needs to happen. I'm adamant about it. Boom. You make it happen. And it's like, all right, this ain't really what I imagined it to be. That's kind of how it was, like, moving back to Dallas. Like, okay, you know, this is not really what I imagined, but inviting God into that, I'm not gonna say mess, but inviting God into that moment is like, okay, let me make this better for you. You know, it's not gonna feel good every day, but the fact that you've invited me in to be a part of this experience, like, I'm going to show you that, you know, there's more than what you can even fathom, what you can even imagine. And I just think that's where I am now. It's like less of let me plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and more of just like, let me be obedient to what my season is now. And just trust that God has something for me on the other side, or just trust that, you know, his promise is true, and it's not overnight. And so it's constant work. It's constant, you know, finesse, like you mentioned, it's constant pivoting, and just stick to that.
Awesome. So let's talk brand identity, right?
Yeah.
We all now just, as millennials, and I mean, there are some millennials I know that are not on social media, which is beautiful. Bless their heart that they're able to live a life outside of social media. But for those of us that are building brands or love connecting and love, you know, sharing our story, what was the transition from a brand identity perspective? Because life in Dallas versus life in LA is totally different, as well as, you know, as you're developing career-wise, your role kind of plays a part in your identity and how you show up. So I know there were like several different pivots within that. So I guess it's more so highlighting the pivot where you are authentic, you decided to authentically be you. What was that transition like?
You know, the transition happens every day. Let me start by saying, because authenticity is not just like something you master and it's like, I'm my true self 24/7. Like, okay, no, let's be honest, you know, especially in the age of social media, like you kind of mentioned. So I guess I'll start. Okay, I'll take it back. I feel like the first pivot was in college. I think that I've always had like this obsession almost with like being myself. I don't know why I've been so like adamant about it, but I've always wanted to like be known as just the most honest version of me, put it like that. And so towards the end of college, when I first got the idea about getting a blog or starting a blog, and I just knew I loved to write. I just knew I wanted a space that was mine where I could do whatever I wanted to do with it. And so that was kind of like the first marker. And then I would say the second was living in LA, and I just felt like nobody there was real. Like, I just felt like, and I, you know, that's such a blanket statement, so let me not, but.
I mean, we can unpack it, because I had this conversation recently with someone too, because I was just to give you guys a little bit more insight as well, I was bi-coastal with LA. I never officially moved to LA, and a lot of people thought I was living in LA just based on how often I was there. But I was literally living in Texas and LA at the same time.
Yeah, this is true.
So I had every intention to finally move to LA, because I had dreamed to go to UCLA, and all these LA is like the place to be. And I got there, and at that time, I was probably about a consistent 3 years in my full-time entrepreneurial journey. And I was knocking, I don't know, maybe 27 at that time. And I just had this new value or appreciation for my family and my true friends, where I did not feel like once I got done with work that I wanted to be in LA with LA people. I'm like, I actually rather be at home. Like, home is home. And so I was blessed to be able to, in my role in what I do, I'm more of a strategy and management perspective, I physically don't really need to be present unless it's really necessary. Right. And so from a connecting and networking perspective, it's just, it's a twofold. Everyone in LA, they're out there hustling and grinding to get the dream that they came out there to get. So everyone is seeking something from whoever they connect with. And so you have some people that come off genuine and are honest and looking for some way for us to benefit mutually. Then you have some where you're not really sure, you know, you may have a cool, dope conversation, but you don't know what may transpire after that, or that person may not have came off genuine. And then in hindsight, I'm also looking at the other side of it, that a lot of people in LA have worked so hard or have been grinding so long that this whole acting Hollywood thing is low-key how they're protecting themselves.
Right.
Because there's so many energies that's exchanging on a frequent basis. Like, you can connect with a crazy amount of people in one. You can go to 5 events in one day, literally, especially if the locations are right and the traffic not too bad. And connect with and connect with so many people. And you have to figure out how to protect yourself. So yeah, it's a very specific type of person that's going to succeed in that space, and that's that hungry to do so. And I identified where I was, and I'm like, I believe I've gained what I needed to gain from this experience in regards of knowing what I wanted for my future. It's going to take me longer to build in LA. So I'd rather build at home. So I just wanted to share that in regards of just the whole concept of like, people in LA are fake. There's a method to their madness, but you just got to have a different type of skin and mentality and hunger to be able to do that for the long run.
Yeah, and I think with me being such a, like, not only do I like to show up as my most authentic self, but I really thrive off of making like real connection, and that is something that I struggled with. And I didn't struggle with it because I'm bad at it, because I'm not. I struggled with it because it was just so hard to feel connected to people there. Like it just felt so like, I'm talking to you, but my mind is somewhere else, or like something is off about this. So outside of Precious and Stacy, and then my roommate at the time, who actually moved before me, because she really wasn't enjoying it. Outside of them, there weren't many people. I could probably name a handful of people that we worked with. So these are still people within close quarters that I'm making connections with. And I think that had a lot to do with it, because it's just like, especially coming from somewhere like Texas, like I'm from Chicago originally, so that is where my thick skin comes from. That is where my bluntness comes from. But moving to Texas, it spoils you, because like that is real Southern hospitality,
Yeah.
And then going somewhere like LA, I'm like, okay, I've moved several times in my life. It's not the environment. It's not living somewhere new. It's just like, I genuinely don't feel like I can make a connection here. Like there's I don't know, what's the word? There's just like a plasticness, or I don't know. It's just hard to get through to people. And so I think that was just like my second pivot, that we kind of talked about before, in terms of just really not being able to show up like my true self. Like I wasn't feeling like myself. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, this probably needs to end. And so that, ended up with me getting to Dallas, and then being like, all right, we're going to take this thing seriously,
So in regards to you deciding to, I know you said that you started or had the thought of your blog in college. Mm-hmm. And so now that that's came into fruition, mm-hmm. which I know sometimes it's really hard to like make the decision, okay, I'm about to launch this thing. Mm-hmm. Because we sit on it, then we think about it, and we're like, let me get some advice. Maybe I should do this, and all the advice I'm giving everyone right now is like, get it done, not perfect. Like that is what I'm telling everybody now. But I'm sure there was a lot of self-talk with your, before you decided to like say, okay, I'm about to launch. I'm about to do this. What were some of the steps you took to finally launch your baby?
Yeah, definitely. I think, so being in college, fast forward, living in LA, I'm realizing like, okay, this is what I want to do. Like, I know I want a blog of some sort. I know I want my own space to have conversation. Even like stepping into the influencer space, like, working with brands and changing the face of what many of these popular brands looks like today. So getting back to Dallas, it was kind of like, okay, I spent the first couple months just getting acclimated, having fun. I'm still young. I'm still enjoying that space and that atmosphere, shifting roles in my career, because at this point I am working a day job, a 9 to 5. And so I think it really was just like one night, I'm like, okay, it's time to stop playing. Like, you've actually written blogs, prepare yourself for this launch, you know. And I was actually working on the site for a couple months, and I'm just like, you know, to your point about it, just get it done. Like, it don't have to be perfect. And I don't know what it was. It was just like one night, like, I'm gonna get it done. And I literally, from like after hours, like 5 p.m. up until like through the next morning at like 6 a.m., I think, I just sat down in my room with my laptop on Squarespace, like, you know exactly how to do this. You know what you're doing. You know what you're looking for. You know, use this person as a reference. You use that person as a reference. YouTube this, that, and the other. Like, just get it done. So that's what happened. I designed myself a website. I already had a few blogs written up. You know, gave myself a bio and used some photos that I had taken. And that was it, you know, and I launched it. There was no real like plan behind it, because I was like, I just don't want to overthink this, you know. What I did do though is I made kind of like a marketing video, and I sent it to like all of my contacts that I knew from college on to living in LA, on to just, you know, being in Dallas. And I sent it to everyone and just asked them to repost it on their Instagram story, just helping to market the launch. But other than that, I think it might have been like a week span that I kind of came up with like a rollout strategy. I was like, okay, I'll post this content this day. It was like in a matter of 3 days. So Monday I'll post this, Wednesday I'll post this, and Friday I'll post that. And I think I launched on the Wednesday, and Friday was just like, thank you everyone. I can't believe, you know, it launched, this is that and the other. But that really was it. Like, it really wasn't anything to it. Yeah. I can't even make it like this big grandiose thing, because it wasn't. I just knew that I wanted to get it done. I wanted to have my own space. I will say though that there were a few key components, and we can kind of revisit that, but there were a few key components into leading me up to that point, you know, where the name The Minor Detail came from, what strategies I used behind creating this space, or how to start a blog. So there were a few of those, but in terms of actually launching, like, there was no actual plan that was super well thought out.
Right. Yeah, whenever I do my trainings or I do my clarity sessions with different multi-passion entrepreneurs, which is what I call it, I embrace the multi-passions. It's just important for you to have the right brand architecture for everything to make sense. Is that, you know, when we say launch and like marketing campaign and brand partnerships and co-collabor, all these words sound so big, but really launch means, okay, I'm gonna go live with my website. Okay, I just need to pick a template. Okay, a marketing campaign means, okay, let's make a few graphics and tell people to post. You know, just really trying to like really simplify the process, because people hear the word campaign or hear the word launch strategy, they're like, I don't know if I got a strategy, but essentially the strategy is how you are going to optimize this specific opportunity or this specific product, service, or X, Y, and Z. And so I'm glad that you had that conversation with yourself of like, let me simplify this. Let me just take a day. You basically just said you built your blog and launched it. Well, built your website in a day and like just put all the content there, essentially, because you have been working on it this whole time, but you just needed to like hit that button.
Exactly, literally.
So what is the purpose that your platform serves, and like who are you targeting? What influence or impact are you wanting to create? And then, of course, lastly, how can all of us support you with The Minor Detail?
Yes, definitely. So I'll start by saying that The Minor Detail has definitely changed slightly from what it started out being for me to now, right?
Normal, which is
normal. Very, very normal. The impact or the goal behind it has not changed. I think there's still room to grow, but the main purpose of it hasn't changed. And I would just say that The Minor Detail is a space to provide women specifically with resources, you know, because life, and this is probably how I felt starting my professional career, but life, there's no true plan, there's no true blueprint to how to get it right the first time. And I think a lot of what I pressured myself with, and still to this day sometimes put pressure on myself is it's got to be right. Like, it's got to be done right. And so I just want The Minor Detail to be a space to provide other women with resources in areas where they might have questions. And it's really that simple, because it could be something as small as like skincare. You know, it's like, I'm breaking out, what can I use to do X, Y, Z? Or, you know, relationship, like, I'm in this relationship for X amount of years and I don't know if this is where I want to be anymore, you know. So I can speak to those type of things, you know, more like lifestyle type of things, to professional, you know, conversations, whether it be like, hey, Precious, I want to, you know, interview you really quickly about your experience doing X, Y, Z and working on these type of campaigns, you know. And so it's very broad, for the sense that I am multi-passionate. And so I never wanted to put myself in a box. That's why I always consider it a lifestyle blog currently. And so I never want to put myself in a box or make myself feel restricted to one type of niche, because I don't think that's who I am. I know that I have a lot of interests, and I know there are a lot of things that I want to do in this life, God willing. And so there's no reason to put, you know, to categorize ourselves or keep ourselves closed, because there's so much more that God wants to do in our lives. And I'm very, very passionate about that specifically. So I think with it starting out as a space for that, you know, that definitely still reigns true. But in terms of like how I see myself pivoting in the future, or how I see the brand growing, there are definitely many, many components that I would like to kind of, you know, bring to fruition. There's not much that I can say about it now. It's definitely still in that God dream phase, but I definitely see it growing in more than just like, it's more than just a blog, you know, it's more than just words on a computer, on a piece of paper. It's helping other women, outsourcing help from other women, you know, having a team of very specific type of people, having a physical space, I'll say that much. And so that is where I envision things growing.
Yes, and I'm so grateful to have, you know, us just connecting, but to just give everyone a little bit more context on why you decided to keep me on your entrepreneurial journey. I would love for them to have that insight. And then me too, because I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know.
I'm like, what? What kind of question is this? You never asked me this.
Yeah.
I think
you got it.
Yeah, no, I know, for sure. I mean, I'm one of genuine connection, you know. I think that's super important. Sometimes it makes me nervous, because I'm like, I'm afraid that if I take this step or go for this opportunity, like, I'm not gonna like this person. And that's a big deal to me. You know, you don't always have to like people. I always want to respect people. I always want people to respect me. You ain't gotta like me, but you're gonna respect me type of feeling. So I think in terms of you, like, from day one, you just always taught me so much, just about standing in your purpose, you know, and being passionate about that and going after it no matter the circumstance. Because while all this is happening, like, there are still external forces in life that go on, you know. Being a woman, there are already so many things that are kind of brought upon you, whether that be, you know, romantically, platonically with friends. You know, we want to have children, and we want to live very specific lifestyles. And so I think that alone is already its own situation. And then we want to create, you know, our own professional careers in a very specific light. And so I always knew that I wanted to be someone that could balance it all. I wanted to be someone that could do it all. Like, I don't think that there should be restrictions on your life because, you know, if you're this boss entrepreneur as a woman, then you probably don't have a relationship because it's too hard to do both. No. And I know meeting you, you were like, from day one, you were the person that was like, nope, I'm gonna do this, and this. And I'm gonna write down this, carry the one, add two, and I'm gonna do that, you know? And I was just like, yes, thank you. Like, you know, you get it. You're just very headstrong, and, you know, never letting things in your personal life deter you from getting where you want it to be. I think that's super important. And no matter how many times you got knocked down, you got back up again. I think aside from everything that I've just mentioned, that's just truly admirable. And that it just inspires me because it's like, okay, you know, I can legit do anything I put my mind to. And I think, you know, that's the starting point. Outside of that, you're just extremely professional. And I don't know where you be learning half this stuff, but
I don't know either. Honestly, I always say it's my experience because I've never worked in corporate America, like, ever.
Yeah, you haven't. And so just like little things that I could pick up and I'm like, okay, I can apply that to this. Or I've never seen this type of spreadsheet be done. Like, okay, how do I even get there? You know, like, so even tidbits like that, like little small resources. And that is what the minor detail is for me. Like, our relationship is what the minor detail is.
Wow, that's crazy.
So that is why it's hard to articulate sometimes because something so genuine like our relationship, like something so real, is it's really hard to put into words, but that is what I want to cultivate everywhere, you know. And not to mention, like, you're a Black woman, I'm a Black woman, we're not gonna sit here and act like that doesn't have anything to do with it. I think naturally we gravitate towards one another because there are certain circumstances that only we experience that we can relate on. And so that's super important to me as well. So all that.
Love you. You need to come to Houston, okay? We gotta have to figure it out.
I know we're like too close to each other. Once all of this Corona madness is over, of course, but it's gotta happen.
Done like years.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, that's a whole nother topic. So we're gonna wrap up with some rapid fire questions. So
let's do it. You know, this is a fave. Rapid fire is what we used to do to get our mind off the craziness. Y'all probably don't know that, but there'll be times where we just wanted to like leave. Like, yeah. But you can't. So like, how can we get my energy back? Like, how can we get back to normal?
That's one of those things, like, get your brain like,
right.
Okay. So, okay. All right. Audio book or real book?
Definitely a real book.
Oatmeal or smoothie?
Oatmeal. Yeah.
Text or talk?
Who?
Text or talk?
Oh, talk. I'm such a lazy texter.
Shop in store or online?
That's changing lately. In store still.
And what's the last thing you ordered on Amazon?
All right, guys, don't judge me. This is gonna live on the interweb forever. But so we're in Corona. Waxers are closed, waxing, sugaring. I ordered some popsicle sticks and some oh dang, I'm lying. Oh well, we in the story, so that's we'll just get to it. But some popsicle sticks and some wax strips, some cloth wax strips, because I sugared myself.
Wow.
Hairless is important to me, and I gave myself a Brazilian sugaring. But
wow,
very successful. Y'all should try it. There are videos on YouTube. Obviously, quarantine got a little crazy for me, so that wasn't the last thing I ordered on Amazon. I forgot it was. I got some bands, some workout bands.
Okay. And what's your definition of love?
I just thought of something very specific, but no, love to me is vulnerability to me. It's being vulnerable in all aspects, because we could be talking about love with parents, we can talk about love with siblings, we can talk about love, romantic love with friends. It's just letting your guard down, letting your walls down, and being able to be just openly relate with one another. And even if it's not relating, just have open conversation. So I think the most genuine connections happen when you allow yourself to feel vulnerable, which I think leads to feeling safe with someone.
So we have one question. Besides subscribing to your blog, how can we support you financially? Or are you supported by any type of affiliate marketing? So how can you be supported financially, Ms. Kyla?
I'm gonna let my brand manager at this moment, Precious, question, because what? Oh my gosh. I really was just coming here to have a conversation. Like, I didn't know I would have to answer something like that. That's so meaningful. I'm like trying to think about it. I literally don't have an answer.
Okay. So, Allie, you can feel free to DM me and we can further that conversation.
Yeah, we're gonna take the conversation off of the live for sure. But I think that's something we can definitely get into for sure.
Awesome. Well, look at God. I'm so happy and grateful you took the time to, share your light and journey with us. And I hope and pray that everyone that attended this conversation and will view this conversation months and years from here be able to really gain and apply some of the things that you learned and to really pivot in their journey. So love you lots. I hope you have an awesome, productive weekend.
Yes.
And, self-care, right?
Definitely. I spent the morning before this doing some skincare, hella masks. So I'm feeling good. It's Saturday. I think it's like 70s, so it's a great day. But yeah, I love you more. I'm so glad that we got to have this conversation. People can see our relationship in real life, which is very hard to describe or like put anywhere. So this is the best type of environment. And I'm looking forward to more of these types of conversations coming soon.
Yes, my dear. Well,
kisses, hugs.
Follow Kyla.
Everyone for joining also. This is super exciting to be able to do. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Kyla Ariel. That's one A in the middle. So it's KHAILARIEL. And then I put my blog in the chat, theminderdetail.co. Definitely check it out. But yeah, let's create some cool stuff.
All right. Have a good weekend, guys. Bye.
All right, bye.